thank you for joining me today. My name is Jake Barrey, and I teach Spanish, so that's kind of the lens that I'm looking at this through. I do teach in a rather big department, so I also I do work collaboratively with some colleagues, so this is definitely a collaboration-based presentation. And we will interact with one of the tools that can be used for collaborative curriculum planning with web-based technology. So let's get started. So there's got to be some reasons that you would be creating this visual representation of your curriculum. If you're like me, your current curriculum could be in a number of files, a number of folders, even on different drives, just a lot of different spaces, and aren't necessarily, depending on what your school's requirements are, located in a nice, tight little spot. So, if you want your curriculum to be sort of packaged a little more neatly, then that is one reason why you would want to engage in this type of activity. Maybe you're moving away from a traditional textbook model, so you're trying to make changes to your curriculum and you need to reestablish it, recreate it, maybe from the ground up even, if that's something that you are going to be required to do. Maybe it's a top-down requirement. Your program director or your principal, the district, the state is requiring you to present your curriculum in a sort of easy to see and communicate package. And if you are trying to communicate what it is you do, what your focus is to some of the other stakeholders in your community, then perhaps this is another reason you would have use for this type of tool and this type of collaboration. It also creates an opportunity to reflect. I think when we can see what it is we're doing kind of in one spot, I think it gives us a different perspective on what exactly it is we're doing. So you might find yourself asking, is this what I teach? And so once you can see it all in one spot, it definitely gets you thinking about what it is you do in a different way. Okay, so what are some of the problems with creating curriculum in the first place? And one of those is a fear of commitment. If I put my curriculum into writing, then I'm going to feel bound or committed to teaching in that way. And to me, that's a problem because I change my curriculum a lot. And if you're going from a textbook to different sorts of materials, then you might find yourself feeling, well, this is all new to me, so I might say that I want to teach this, but I might actually have to make changes to it. And the problem of what exactly do I include? So is this going to include all my vocab, all my activities, all my assessments, all the websites? How big is this project going to get? And I think that the answer to that question is going to vary largely depending on what the requirements are on you and your program. If you do use a textbook, then that might actually help provide a certain scope of your curriculum so that could be used as a guide. So solutions to both of these problems. I feel like a need for flexibility wherever we're doing our work is going to be key in this idea of the problem of fear of commitment. So if this document or this visual representation of my curriculum can be as flexible as my curriculum needs to be, then perhaps I'd be more likely to create it and would get more out of the process of creating it. And on whatever this workspace is, there needs to be a space to communicate and share and collaborate. So we're trying to figure out what tools are going to be best for this type of collaborative curriculum planning. So what are the benefits to creating curriculum with some of your team members? So we've talked a lot in this program, I feel, about how important it is to establish objectives and to build units and lessons and plans based on those objectives. So level-alike teachers can decide for all of their students what those objectives are and build according to those. And I think it helps the students benefit from a consistency in curriculum. So this is one of the things that in my supervisor interview I learned that if we have a lot of student movement, then taking someone from Mr. Barrey's class into Miss Ford's class, if we're designing and creating our curriculum collaboratively based on those objectives, then that shouldn't be too much of an impact on that student. Because there is usually, this takes place at the beginning of the year, the first month or so, there is a lot of student movement. Also, my students go to the next level, from level 3 to level 4, for example. It helps the level 4 students understand what my students might be able to do and come in with. So it helps with vertical alignment too. And it also accommodates stylistic and methodological differences. So your established curriculum can be the same, and then you can use your teaching style or your particular methodology to to sort of enhance that curriculum. And it splits the workload. If you and somebody else are working on this together, then in ideal environments, I suppose it would actually help for you to get some input and to spend less time creating this. Of course, there's definitely barriers to that as well. So collaborating on curriculum, what is it that we are doing? So some of the problems to collaborating is time. And we increasingly have less and less time, I feel, or we have perhaps responsibilities as time goes on. So one of those barriers it is teaching multiple levels. So if I have 3 preps, if I teach Spanish 1, 2, and 3, then obviously I'm going to have less time to split between levels 1, 2, and 3. So whatever this work create, it needs to give room for us to not work at the same time to alleviate these issues of time and space. For example, if you're meeting outside of your school time, like I do often, the physical distance from your colleagues creates a barrier to collaboration. So we definitely, in my department, in your department too, I'm sure you make time every week or at least a couple times every month for meetings, and typically that's not quite enough time to get all your planning done. There's also the issue of people's comfortability with technical tools, which can definitely influence those types of workspaces. So aren't there already tools for this? Of course there are. Collaborative tools like Zoom have been really effective. People don't always want to be in the same space. They don't always want their camera to be on. And a lot of times it's not really realistic or even necessary to have a verbal back and forth if there is a chat feature in your collaborative tool, and I'll get to that later. Excel is definitely one of those on the list of ability with tech. I am thoroughly distracted by things in Excel. I feel like I'm gonna hit one button and flip something from A to Z, or erase something and not how to get it back, or realize that I'm not looking in the right spot because I forgot to look at those tabs on the bottom. I feel the learning curve is really, really steep with Excel. Docs and Word, also great tools. If you want to present your curriculum in a grid format, though, like I'm about to show you, then you'll have to be really good with creating tables, managing cells, and stuff like that. A lot of times I just don't know if that provides the flexibility, and that can create quite a steep learning curve too, learning how to do all those sort of intricate formatting things in Word. All right, so before we join our curriculum grid that we're all going to sort of try and work on together, let's recap those solutions, and then I'll show you a tool that I have found, or that was brought to my attention, that I think captures a lot of the needs required in these solutions. So we need to be flexible because dynamic teachers, I think, are always changing their curriculum, always trying new things. So the need for flexibility, I think, is huge in this. And to add, it's in here twice. So to add change elements as desired. We need to be able to communicate while we're doing this. It needs to be the opportunity for asynchronous collaboration to alleviate issues of time and space. And again, curve, I think, is huge. So one tool to rule them all? Probably not. However, what I want to show you is the curriculum grid that I created in my experiential module. And Bruna helped me with this and presented this tool to me, and it really opened my eyes to what I've been saying, this visual representation of my curriculum. So once I saw this particular tool, I thought that this would be a good thing that other teachers should know about and to have access to in order to plan curriculum collaboratively. So I'm going to have to get out of my presentation. So you can add this. This is an add-on called Lucidchart. So the first thing I think I need you to do, and I don't know if I can just put the link in. Let me put the link in the chat really quick, and then try to follow that, and I'll explain how you can get into this as well. So I made this. I hope I'm still. It looks like you all can see this. I'm going to share this link with you really quick. So copy that, and then let's see if I can get into this chat. I'm narrating my inner monologue. I apologize for that. So big link coming through. Click on that, and if that is good enough, then that's great. That is what I'm hoping. If you need to sign up, then what you can do is let me try this. So go to Google Docs, and then on any doc you open, you can go to, oh my gosh, 17 minutes. You can go to Get Add-ons, and you can go to Lucidchart. Mine's already installed, so you'll have to install that. And go back to your Add-ons tab, and then it should appear in there. And then you can hit Insert Diagram or Update Inserted Diagrams. Has anyone been able to join the existing language level 1 curriculum?
Yeah, so not to interrupt you too much, but we don't have to have this to access it, right? We don't have to do it through Google Drive. We can just go directly to Lucidchart.
Hopefully, yes.
I'm working on getting more access for us.
Okay.
In the mouthful to Lucidchart. Anyway, but yeah, I'm glad you're doing this.
I can't see that other people are on here. So if on here, let's try something. Okay, so I'm not here to teach you a bunch of features of this because the learning curve thing I think is really important, and I'm not an expert in this either. And so I have gotten by using this with just a few features of this. So you can see the grid format features the unit name, your essential questions, any materials that are going to be required to present your content, overarching concepts that have to do with your unit, and then you can make space for your student learning objectives. That's what the SLOW stands for. So you can see we have them for language and culture. And then learning evidence or assessments. So everybody here, what I want you to do is sort of click and drag one of these Post-its into a spot. And let's imagine that this is a curriculum for a level 1 class. So just to get it started here, and I haven't taught level 1 for a long time, so don't laugh if this isn't a good example of a level 1 thematic unit, but let's just say sports for fun. And so let's imagine what some of those materials would be, and just come in and get familiar with how it feels to click and drag one of these over here, change the color of it, and type some text in it. So you would have access with all the features. You would be able to start comments in here, and you would be able to, I guess that is the communicative feature. If you are doing this asynchronously, then you can kind of highlight something and click and say, are you sure this is where this is supposed to be? Or do we need to add another column? So perhaps you decide that essential questions, materials, concepts, and the SLOWs, learning evidence are not enough. And it's super easy to just add another column. And if you find that one of your columns perhaps perhaps your concepts ends up in your essential questions and you just end up scrapping that column. So it's super easy to come in and just move stuff around. There's this cool little arrow feature that can kind of, you can kind of show directionally, like, oh, you know, the podcast is part of this, right? Like that might not be the best example, but the idea is that you can use some of these features to communicate your ideas to your colleagues while you're creating this. And it's super simple to just kind of click on stuff and move it around, change its color, or just make it go away entirely. It kind of looks like a Jamboard. If you're wondering, well, can I just do this on Jamboard and that's with Google? Yeah, you can. And it has way fewer features, and you can't link to other materials, which I thought was a really a way to expand this. So if you were communicating this to somebody else, you could add them to share it, and they wouldn't have to really see all your lessons, all your vocab, but you could absolutely have links to all that. So this is the visual representation, but it could really expand beyond this and increase how much you could actually communicate in this small space. So before we go, I know I'm at 22 minutes. I guess the last thing is if you go back to Docs, then what you can do is you can insert a snapshot of this. So, and this would be another way to sort of communicate this. If you wanted to start this and sort of maybe not invite your colleagues to collaborate on it, but just to communicate whatever this is with your stakeholders, then, for example, you click on this and you hit insert, and then whoever is on the receiving end of this will not be able to manipulate it. But there is an app to it. So, so it does have some flexibility, and it has some communicative properties in it. And you can actually make a quick PDF of it as well, or just attach it to a Google Doc and share this with somebody so they can see what you're working on. Okay, so I don't know if I have, oh, and I should, Bruna, did I give you credit on handing this over to me? I know this was super eye-opening for me because I was not satisfied with the curriculum, I guess, organizers that were presented to me to actually do this. And this actually made it made a lot more sense to me in this grid format to actually develop my curriculum like this. And I like the mobility of the Post-its. I'm kind of a big Post-it person either, so I don't know, like, if you were to look at my desk right now, there's Post-its all over. It could be just I love Post-its, but I didn't think that was a good title for my presentation. So thank you so much for joining me. On my last slide, I do have some questions. What are you still curious about with this app? I have tons of questions about it too. How do you feel about the grid format? That was one of my favorite aesthetic elements of Lucidchart. Would you recommend this app to anybody? I need to ask my school to allow us to use it so I can use it on that Google account as well. So.
Yeah, well, thank you for your presentation, Jake. I think that was Amanda's recommendation in our first EM meeting that we used Lucidchart. I think that's when we started using it, and I agree. I think it's so much easier to be able to just mix and match and just display the concepts and the relationships between them using a visual board like this one. And I just wanted to point out that it's Lucidchart also has some templates available. So if you wanted to use this with your students, for example, or even to talk about other types of collaboration with the teachers, they have mind maps, they have other types of templates. If it's hard for you to come up with some sort of model for the curriculum or what you're trying to accomplish, you can take a look at the templates too and go from there. So there's definitely lots of things we can do using it. So thank you.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get us, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get full access for students through Manifold the way we could with OSTI, but at least to make it easier for us to share to you, and then you'd be able to edit them. And the more access you have, the more templates you have access to. But so Jake, the thing that really inspired me about this topic is, I think it's not just the tool, but it's that you found a way for you to sort of externalize what you're thinking and then move things around. Because I know when I'm designing a course that I will use, PowerPoint, you've seen me do this where I'm like moving, if I need to move things around, I'll go do it in PowerPoint, and each person is a little shape, and I'm, manipulating them. And Excel just is not, it's so rigid compared to a tool like this, if you're going to be doing that kind of work where you want to move things around. So once you're beyond that and you have you're kind of past the brainstorming phase, past moving things around, then you can go to a tool like that to make it look really organized. You can sort things that way, those kinds of things. But I think you're so right that you need something like this, but it's that piece of it's not just that you have this tool. It's not just that you are trying to collaborate at a distance. It's that you also, when you're in person, when you are on the same campus and can meet in person, still getting you to put things in a format that you can move around and save and connect to other things, and all of that is powerful. But it's that collaboration piece. I want you to talk more about that. Like, how do you do this? Like, how do you have a teacher next to you and actually do this practically?
Well, I did this with the other Spanish 3 teacher. But like I said, we don't have access to Lucidchart, so it was more an exercise of getting it into a Google Doc. Essentially, I would like to use this particular app, but we both have gone in together and have decided, like, what are we going to add? How much are we going to show? Do we need more columns? What do we call stuff? So I am okay with these. Like, at my school, we use essential questions, materials, concepts. So every different collaborative group is going to have their sort of rapport, the language that they use in their programs. I think you probably have to work together synchronously at some point, just so each teacher understands, like, the grid itself and the language that you're using. Or, again, there's a lot of questions, so I think if you don't have a verbal dialogue, then the comment feature, I think, would be really helpful.
Or in combination with, you each spend some time on it, and then you collaborate, kind of like you would do with your program evaluation projects, that you do some things on your own and come back and connect. You can kind of follow the other person's trail for what they've done and what they've said. I think it's again, I think, like, if you were going to present this again, if you were going to give this presentation, then I would want you to frame it particularly in terms of solving the problem of how you get together, you put your heads together on curriculum, and then how this helps you do that. And so seeing a bit more about how your curriculum looks in this tool. And sorry, I'm going into critique mode, and I'm going to be a good audience before I go into critique mode, but it's because I think it is valuable. And what I want you to do at a language teacher oriented venue other than this one would be to frame it in terms of, this is our actual curriculum. Here's how you get to that through this tool. So you could even just show, like, plug yours in, even though you didn't use this to get there. You could still plug your curriculum in and show how you might change things around. Like, let's say you've got a curriculum and you're thinking about how to revise it for the next year, and you could show your thought process for how you would use this to help you do that. So, like, yeah, there's IB schools. There's a whole thing where they're trying to align with what the other teachers are doing, and the other teachers keep changing their minds about the sequence in which they're doing things. But if you can take an entire chunk and move it, then it's okay. If the other teacher changes their order and you want to align with them, and you take a whole chunk and move it, and you can really see how that works, in a tool like this. Okay, we have another session. Let me check the time. Central Time is breaking my head right now. Did you see how hard it was for me to put the meetings at the right time? Because I'm looking at, like, telling you what time it is and looking there, and if that's aligned with Central Time, and it's okay, 2 minutes. What we're going to do in the next time is that these are going to be pre-recorded sessions, but we're going to play those sessions. Jake, you want to stop sharing? I need to stop recording too. So yeah, let's thank Jake. we haven't done enough of like really like thanking you for your presentations. Yeah, so please, in support of your classmates, go and listen to their presentations. If you would rather do something else and you want to listen to it as a recording later, then you can do that. But what I'd like to happen is that we watch it as if it's live. So this is how we're doing ACTFL. We pre-recorded our video, and we're hoping people will go show up and watch it on their own, and then watch it and then give us feedback on it. So what we're setting up here is that we will go together into the rooms as if they were presenting live and respond to them in the chat, and they'll be able to come back and see what we said. And so that's a good way to get close to presenting live. That make sense? Yeah, and then after that, you have two options. So you can go to Edward's presentation, and then not to compete with Edward, but just to say, there is another thing that you can do in the other room, and that is that I'm going to show you the presentation that we're giving at ACTFL on ecology and vitality in Japanese language programs. So there are two options for that. Okay, let's go, guys. And I hope the recording worked out okay, because my timer doesn't match your talk. So I hope your recording is the one that carries. And I will see you soon. Thanks for a great presentation and managing your. See you soon.
Thank you. See you there.